greatest basketball player who ever lived, walked up to a microphone in a packed arena in Los Angeles, and he could not stop crying.
When Kobe Bryant died, a piece of me died.
For years, the world kept knocking Kobe Bryant down, calling him nothing more than a copycat. But Michael Jordan saw what everyone else refused to see. Not an imitation, but the only man who truly carried his fire. Jordan kept telling them the truth. He knew Kobe Bryant was destined to become a legend right from the very beginning.
He asked me one question when we were down, been down at half court, and he wanted to know how, when I turn around on my jump shot, how to lock the defense or how to get the feel of defense. I told him you should feel the defense with your legs.
So why did the greatest player in history look at the man everyone called his imitator and see a twin instead? And why did it take Kobe's death and one of the most emotional speeches Michael Jordan has ever given for people to finally understand what he'd been telling them for 2 decades? This is the story of what Michael Jordan understood about Kobe Bryant long before the rest of the world caught up. And it is the story of how it took a tragedy and a broken man crying at a podium for everyone to finally hear what he had been saying all along.
Kobe was my dear friend. He was like a little brother. Everyone always wanted to talk about the comparisons between he and I. I just wanted to talk about Kobe.
To understand any of it, you have to go back to the beginning. Back to when Kobe Bryant was not a legend, not a 5-time champion, not a global icon. Back to when he was a skinny teenager that most of the basketball establishment did not take seriously at all.
I remember calling my brothers at home like, man, I just played against the rawest young 18-year-old. I mean, I ain't never played against a young boy that got it like this.
I had these big knee pads on because I was growing really fast. I had the socks all the way up here, and I had like the high top.
Skinny.
Yeah, like skinny as hell. And I scored not a free throw, nothing. Not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points.
Kobe Bryant entered the NBA in the summer of 1996. He was 17 years old, a kid straight out of a high school in Pennsylvania who had decided, with breathtaking arrogance, that he was ready to compete against grown men who had been professionals since before he was born.
Oh my God! By Kobe Bryant behind the Kobe Bryant has hit a shot at the buzzer!
He was drafted 13th overall, not first, not second, 13th, and then immediately traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And from the moment he arrived, he came with a label stapled to his forehead: the next Michael Jordan.
And there you see Kobe Bryant in the foreground, the man many have dubbed the next Michael Jordan.
He wanted to be the next Michael Jordan, if not better, and he wanted that one-on-one challenge.
It was the worst possible thing you could say about a young player because it was a promise almost no human being could ever keep. Jordan was in the middle of his second three-peat. He was untouchable, a global phenomenon, the standard against which all greatness was measured. And here was this teenager wearing number 8, with the fadeaway jumper, the tongue out, the mannerisms, the swagger, all of it lifted directly from the man he had idolized his entire childhood.
Nice move. Wow. Did you see the move by the kid? That's Kobe. Kobe there, and that's what...
Kobe did not hide it. He had studied Jordan obsessively. He had broken down his footwork frame by frame. He had built his entire game in the image of his hero.
I had a question about shooting this turnaround shot. So I asked him about it. And he gave me a great detailed answer. But on top of that, he said, if you ever need anything, give me a call. It's like my big brother. And, I truly hate having discussions about who would win one-on-one. And what you get from me is from him. I don't get 5 championships here without him, because he guided me so much and gave me so much great advice.
Kobe is the only one that he could really say met his standards as a player and a guy that worked hard at his game.
To Kobe, it was homage. To a lot of the public, it was theft. And it made him an incredibly easy target, because being the next Jordan meant that every time Kobe failed, the failure was magnified 100 times over. And in the spring of 1997, in front of a national audience, Kobe Bryant failed about as publicly as a young player possibly can. It was the Western Conference semifinals, the Lakers against the Utah Jazz. Game 5, with the season on the line. And in the biggest moments of the biggest game of his young life, the 18-year-old rookie fell apart. In the closing seconds of regulation, and then again in overtime, Kobe launched jump shots that did not just miss, they airballed. One after another after another.
Right, Exo fake stock away, cross court left, open Kobe Bryant for three, another airball.
Shots that sailed short, that never even touched the rim, that fell into the hands of the Jazz as the Lakers season died around him.
I shot 5 air balls on national TV in front of millions of people that cost us the series, and I'm 18. I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it. Done.
It was a rough couple years for me coming into the league. I was a kid that shot a bunch of air balls, you know what I mean?
4 air balls in total. The Utah crowd began chanting the words airball in a mocking sing-song, and the Lakers were eliminated. It was humiliating. And in that instant, all the next Jordan hype curdled into something ugly. The mockery was immediate, and it was brutal. The narrative wrote itself overnight. This kid was not the next anybody. He was a teenager who had no business taking those shots, an arrogant gunner who thought he was already a superstar and had just proven, on the biggest stage, that he was not. Now here's the part of that night that tells you everything about who Kobe Bryant actually was. Because while the rest of the world was laughing at him, Kobe was already at work. After that loss, he did not go home and hide. He found a gym. He got someone to open it for him, and he shot jumpers, alone in the dark, until the sun came up the next morning. Hours upon hours of shooting, in the immediate aftermath of the most humiliating night of his life, driven by a refusal to ever feel that helpless again.
You're worried about how people may perceive you, and like you're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself.
Years later, Kobe would call that game a turning point. He said it taught him how to deal with adversity, with public scrutiny, with self-doubt. He said that at 18 years old, it was gut check time. Some people who study his career point to that exact night, that string of air balls and that all-night shooting session that followed, as the very moment the Mamba mentality was born. The idea that failure was not something to fear, but something to attack. The obsession that would come to define him. But in 1997, the public did not see any of that. They did not see the gym. They did not see the sunrise. They just saw the air balls, and the label of arrogant, selfish copycat only hardened. Because that reputation followed him for years. As Kobe grew into a star alongside Shaquille O'Neal, the criticism evolved, but it never disappeared.
Bryant to Shaq!
Now he was a ball hog, a shot chucker, a player who cared more about his own numbers and his own legend than about winning.
Bruh, if you were in shape, by the time I run down on a fast break and run back and then run down, you're still coming down the first time, bruh. Like, what the hell do you want me to do? Right? So a lot of our contention came from that.
We are the most enigmatic, controversial, most dominant 1-2 punch, little to big, ever created, and we will never be duplicated. I don't care what you say.
Critics said he took too many bad shots. They said he did not trust his teammates. They pointed to his increasingly public feud with Shaq as proof that his ego was too big for any team to contain. And underneath all of it ran the same tired refrain that had been there since day one. He was trying to be Jordan, and he would never, ever be Jordan.
I know he was mimicking Mike. I grew up on Mike like dudes grew up on Steph and Kobe and all that, so I get it, right? I've seen him come from that young boy to take over the league.
He had everything, all the markings, the way he posed, the way he held himself. It was almost amazing. And there were times I would pull him to the sideline and say, don't try to take over this game. It's not time. But he was dying to do so.
That was the consensus. That was what the loudest voices in basketball spent years repeating. Kobe Bryant, the imitation, the lesser version. The talented kid who would always live in a shadow he had chosen for himself. And the whole time, one man was looking at Kobe Bryant and seeing something completely different. Michael Jordan did not see a copycat. He saw a kindred spirit. He saw in this young player a version of the exact same fire that burned inside himself.
What Kobe Bryant was to me was the inspiration that someone truly cared about the way I played the game or the way that he wanted to play the game.
And crucially, he had the standing to know the difference, because he was the only person on earth who actually knew what it felt like to be Michael Jordan. He knew what real obsession looked like from the inside. He knew the difference between a kid imitating a style and a kid possessed by the same demons that drove greatness. And when Jordan looked at Kobe, he recognized his own reflection. The two of them first shared a court while Jordan was still winning championships in Chicago and finishing his career, and later during his comeback with the Washington Wizards. And even as a teenager, Kobe never once backed down. There is a famous moment from the 1998 All-Star Game when a 19-year-old Kobe, in his first All-Star appearance, reportedly waved off a screen from the veteran Karl Malone so that he could isolate one-on-one against Jordan himself.
Man, the education. He's now in a postgraduate course.
I don't wish boys want to take care of battle when he don't let the game come together. He just go out there and take.
He asked for a pick and roll, and Kobe waved them off. And I think we were all in awe or shocked. Kobe was like, no, I got this all by myself. And he waved Karl out.
A teenager telling a future Hall of Famer to get out of the way because he wanted to test himself against his idol with no help. Most young players would have been terrified. Kobe treated it as an invitation, and the way Kobe approached those matchups tells you everything about the strange, intimate nature of their bond. Kobe once said that the very first time he played against Jordan, he walked onto the floor genuinely believing he was going to destroy him.
We call him Black Jesus, or you can call him Black Cat. Like, I'm gonna call him fucking Mike. That's his fucking name. When we matched up, I think he understood that. You're not intimidating me, I'm not going anywhere.
That was just how Kobe's mind worked. He thought he was going to destroy everyone, but there was something deeper in the way he prepared. Kobe explained that the best way he ever found to defend Jordan was to defend him exactly the way Jordan would have defended himself. He had studied his hero so completely that when he guarded him, it was like holding a mirror up to the man.
There's a little Jordan sticking out of his tongue right there.
Kobe on Michael. To the foul line, the jumper over him, and that's the way.
He knew what Jordan wanted to do before Jordan did it, because he had spent his whole life learning to do those same things. Imagine the peculiar closeness of that, to compete against someone by becoming, in that moment, a reflection of them.
They just had this virtual dialogue, if you will. If I catch the ball on the left wing with a live dribble, how would you defend me? And the detail that they were going over these abstract ideas, they both concluded that they only agreed on one thing, that Michael Jordan had bigger hands than him.
You get a chance to really see and like touch and feel strength, speed, quickness, and it was fun to be out there.
No two players in the history of the sport were ever connected in quite that way. And this is worth pausing on because it cuts right to the heart of the copycat accusation. The thing that people mocked Kobe for, the fact that his game looked so much like Jordan's, was not laziness or a lack of originality. It was mastery. Kobe had not just watched Jordan, he had dismantled him, studied the mechanics of the fadeaway, the angles of the footwork, the rhythm of the jab step, and then rebuilt every piece of it inside his own body until the two were nearly indistinguishable. That is not what a fan does. That is what an obsessive craftsman does. And Kobe himself understood the deeper truth about it better than his critics ever did. When people accused him of stealing Jordan's moves, Kobe pointed out that Jordan had stolen his moves too, from the players who came before him, from David Thompson, from Julius Erving, from Jerry West.
Michael is trying to teach Kobe a lesson, trying to give him the experience, the youth, to the wisdom that what he once had.
Nobody invents the wheel, Kobe said. You learn from the greats who came before you, and if you are good enough, you steal it better than anyone else ever has. That was not the excuse of a copycat. That was the philosophy of a student of the game who understood exactly where he stood in a lineage stretching back generations. Jordan, who had done the very same thing in his own youth, recognized that too. Jordan noticed. Of course he noticed. He would later say that the thing about Kobe was that no matter where he saw him, Kobe saw the challenge. When a retired Jordan came out to Los Angeles to visit Phil Jackson, who was by then coaching the Lakers, Kobe greeted his hero not with small talk, but by immediately asking whether he had brought his shoes so the two of them could play.
So I get in this room and he sits down and he goes, first thing Kobe says is, I could kick your ass one-on-one.
I walk in and Kobe's sitting there. And the first thing, I'm in a suit. First thing Kobe said, did you bring your shoes? No, I wasn't thinking about playing. But his attitude to compete and play against someone he felt like he could enhance or improve his game. To me, that's what I loved about the kid.
Kobe walked in after a shower and the press and whatnot. And he sat down and he said, Michael, I can take you one-on-one. And Michael said, well, I think you might. I'm 37, you're 22, right?
That was the relationship. Kobe was forever trying to climb the mountain, and the mountain was Jordan. And instead of being annoyed by it, instead of pushing the kid away, Jordan slowly opened the door. He became a mentor, a big brother. And the way that relationship actually worked, the day-to-day reality of it, is one of the most telling details in this entire story. Because Kobe called him, constantly, at all hours. Jordan would later describe getting texts and phone calls from Kobe at 11:30 at night, at 2:30 in the morning, at 3 a.m., with the young player firing off questions about post-up moves, about footwork, about the intricacies of the triangle offense.
He used to call me, text me, 11:30, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, talking about post-up moves, footwork, and sometimes the triangle. At first, it was an aggravation, but then it turned into a certain passion. This kid had passion like you would never know.
This was not a casual friendship of occasional check-ins. This was a young man so consumed by the pursuit of greatness that he would wake his hero in the middle of the night because a question about basketball could not wait until morning. Jordan admitted that at first, it was an aggravation. He compared Kobe to a little brother who always gets into your stuff, your closet, your shoes, everything, a nuisance you could not quite get rid of. But then something shifted. Jordan realized that the late-night calls were not annoying at all. They were the sign of something he deeply respected. They were proof of a passion that he said was like nothing you would ever know. And that aggravation, in his words, turned into a certain kind of love. Think about what that means. The most competitive human being in the history of the sport, a man who famously held grudges over the smallest slights, a man who used every doubt as fuel, looked at Kobe Bryant, the kid everyone else called a selfish imitator, and decided to let him in. To answer the phone at 3 in the morning, to share the secrets of his craft with the one young player he believed truly deserved them. And then Jordan said the thing that should have ended the debate forever. He said flat out that Kobe was a mentally tough kid. Maybe, he added, even tougher than he himself was.
When the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury.
Called him and I said, yo, Cole. He was like, bro, I love it.
He gave it to me too, boy.
Sit with that for a second. Michael Jordan, whose mental toughness is considered the gold standard of the sport, the benchmark that every athlete in every game is measured against, publicly wondered aloud whether Kobe Bryant might have been even tougher than him. That is not the language of a man dismissing a copycat. That is the highest compliment one competitor can pay another. But here is where the tragedy of the title comes in. Because the world did not hear it that way. The world was not listening. When Jordan praised Kobe, people treated it as politeness. When he acknowledged the comparison, people treated it as generosity from a secure king. And in the most famous example of all, when Jordan was asked which players he would have wanted to face one-on-one in his prime, and he ran down a list of legends and then said that the only one he might actually lose to was Kobe Bryant, because Kobe had stolen all of his moves, the entire internet took it as a joke. A funny line. A bit of good-natured ribbing about a copycat. Haha, Kobe stole Michael's moves.
If I was in my prime, who would I want to play one-on-one with? I don't think I'd lose. Other than Kobe Bryant, because he steals all my moves.
But listen to what Jordan was actually saying underneath the joke. He was saying that of every great player across every era, of every legend he could have named, the one he was not sure he could beat was Kobe. He was saying that Kobe had absorbed his game so completely, so perfectly, that facing him would be like facing a mirror. That was not an insult. That was Michael Jordan admitting that Kobe Bryant had reached him. Had matched him closely enough that even the great Jordan ego had to pause. And people laughed it off as a punchline about a kid who stole some moves. And part of the reason nobody heard it was that the relationship itself happened almost entirely out of view. The mentorship was not a press conference. It was phone calls in the dark. It was text messages nobody else read. It was two men talking about footwork at 3 a.m. while the rest of the world was asleep. The public never saw the brotherhood because the brotherhood was private. What the public saw instead was a machine, an entire sports media industry that had discovered there was no argument more reliable, no debate more endlessly profitable than Jordan versus Kobe. Every time Kobe hit a fadeaway, the comparison fired up again. Every playoff run, every big game, every milestone became another round in a fight that could never be settled, and therefore never ended. The comparison was good for ratings. It was good for arguments in barbershops and bars and comment sections. It was good for everyone except the truth. Because the more the world treated the two of them as opponents in a permanent contest, the less able it was to see what they actually were to each other. Nobody listened. That was the pattern for 20 years. Jordan kept telling everyone exactly who Kobe was in the clearest terms he knew how, and the noise of the debate drowned it out every single time. The public was so busy arguing about whether Kobe could ever be as good as Jordan that they never stopped to notice that Jordan himself had already answered the question. He had welcomed Kobe into a brotherhood of exactly 2, and the fact that the rest of the world could not hear it did not make it any less true. And then Kobe went out and proved Michael Jordan right, over and over and over again. The airball rookie who everyone mocked became a 5-time NBA champion. He won 3 straight titles alongside Shaq at the start of the century, and then everything fell apart. The feud between the two stars finally boiled over, the partnership was dismantled, and Shaq was traded away. And when it happened, the critics practically celebrated. This, they said, was the moment Kobe would be exposed. He was a selfish player who had ridden a dominant big man to his rings, and now, left to carry a team on his own, he would be revealed as a scorer who could never actually win. For a few lean years, it even looked like they might be right. The Lakers struggled. Kobe put up staggering individual numbers on mediocre teams, and the airball era whispers came roaring back, louder than ever. Selfish. Empty stats. Never a leader, never Jordan. And then he answered them the only way he ever knew how. He went out and won 2 more championships as the unquestioned leader of his own team, dragging a new supporting cast to the top of the mountain and silencing the idea that he needed anyone to carry him.
In that 2010 playoff series, I would have to say, it was nothing getting in the way of him getting that championship when I look back. And he went and did it. He won it without Shaq.
Beating the Celtics in Game 7. That's what I'm most proud of because it was the hardest. And we were able to collectively dig deep together and say, all right, we're going to figure this thing out.
5 rings in total. The same number, notably, that had once seemed impossibly out of reach for a kid chasing a 6-time champion. He captured a league MVP award in 2008. He earned 2 finals MVPs. He was selected to 18 All-Star games. He piled up more than 33,000 points, one of the highest totals the sport has ever seen. And along the way, he authored performances that landed him permanently in the conversation with Jordan himself. On one January night in 2006, Kobe Bryant scored 81 points in a single game.
This would be 18 for 20 from the line and an 81-point game. 55 in the second half. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history.
When you grow up, downloading that into your brain over and over and over, and then, that summer, I made 1,000 shots a day. So when you download that into your system and you go out in the court and you're just executing things that you've done thousands of times before, and you have that dream, then that becomes possible.
The night he got 81 We needed all those points. We devised a little offensive system that would exaggerate Kobe having a one-on-one opportunity with our power forward, a small forward. He ate that up.
81. It remains the second highest scoring game in the history of the NBA, behind only Wilt Chamberlain. It was the kind of individual explosion that even Jordan, at his absolute peak, never quite matched. The copycat had done something the original never did. And when the end finally came, when a battered 37-year-old Kobe played the last game of his 20-year career in 2016, he did not shuffle quietly off the stage. He scored 60 points in his final game.
A 60-point game for Kobe Bryant.
I see you, Shaq, saying go for 50, and then you're just going, and you're not hitting easy shots. These are not easy shots.
His body nearly used up, his legs almost gone, willing himself to one last impossible night through sheer force of the mentality that had been forged in a dark gym after an airball game 19 years earlier. The kid the world had written off as a lesser Jordan had built one of the greatest careers in the history of basketball. And the man who had seen it coming, the man who had recognized the fire when everyone else saw only imitation, was Michael Jordan. But the relationship between them was never really about the trophies or the debates. And in the final years of Kobe's life, that became clearer than ever. Because even in retirement, even after both men had won everything there was to win, Kobe kept calling, he kept texting. Only now the questions had changed. In the months before his death, Kobe was reaching out to Jordan not to ask how to beat him one-on-one, but to ask for advice on how to teach basketball moves to his daughter Gianna, who had inherited her father's obsession and dreamed of playing in the WNBA.
I remember maybe a couple of months ago, he sends me a text and he's saying, I'm trying to teach my daughter some moves. And I don't know what I was thinking or what I was working on, but what were you thinking about when you were trying to, as you were growing up, trying to work on your moves? I said, what age? He says 12. I said, 12, I was trying to play baseball. He sends me a text back saying, laughing my ass off.
Fans will come up to me and she'll be standing next to me and they'll be like, hey, you gotta have a boy. Somebody carry on the tradition, the legacy. She's like, oh, I got this. My daughter just looked at me after the game. She goes, we probably should have stayed home. Because we were at the game. We went to the game to see UConn.
That is where the two of them had arrived. Two of the fiercest competitors the sport had ever produced. Both of them now fathers. One big brother helping the other figure out how to pass the game down to the next generation. The rivalry that the public had spent decades manufacturing had always, on the inside, been a brotherhood. And it had matured into something gentle, something about family. And then on the morning of January the 26th, 2020, it was all taken away. Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 7 other people were killed when their helicopter crashed into the fog-covered hills near Calabasas, California. They had been on their way to a youth basketball tournament, to a game Kobe was going to coach and Gianna was going to play in. The girl he had been texting Jordan about. Gone alongside her father in an instant. The news detonated across the entire planet. And among the millions of people trying to process the impossible, there was Michael Jordan, who had just lost the little brother he had spent more than 20 years mentoring, aggravated by and quietly loving. Which brings us back to that podium. That arena. That February afternoon in Los Angeles, where the greatest and most guarded competitor in the history of sports stood in front of the world and wept. Jordan told the crowd that it might surprise people to learn how close he and Kobe truly were. He talked about the late-night calls and the endless questions, and how the nuisance had turned into love.
All of us have brothers and sisters, little brothers, little sisters who, for whatever reason, always tend to get in your stuff, your closet, your shoes, everything. It was a nuisance, if I can say that word. But that nuisance turned into love over a period of time, just because the admiration that they had for you as big brothers or big sisters.
He talked about the passion, saying again that this kid had passion like you would never know. He said that what Kobe gave him was the feeling that someone truly cared about the way he played the game, and that as he got to know Kobe, all he wanted was to be the best big brother he possibly could. And he promised, from that day forward, to live with the memory of having had a little brother he tried to help in every way he could. He told Kobe to rest in peace, little brother. And the man who had spent a lifetime never letting anyone see him broke completely in front of everyone.
When Kobe Bryant died, a piece of me died. And as I look in this arena and across the globe, a piece of you died. Or else you wouldn't be here. I promise you, from this day forward, I will live with the memories of knowing that I had a little brother.
In that moment, finally, the world heard it. The relationship that had been hiding in plain sight for 2 decades was suddenly painfully clear to everyone. All the arguing, all the ranking, all the copy versus original nonsense fell away, and what was left was the simple truth that Michael Jordan had been telling us the entire time. He never saw a rival. He never saw an imitator. He saw a brother. He saw a kindred obsessive. He saw greatness, and he had recognized it before almost anyone else on earth. He had been right about Kobe Bryant from the very beginning. Right about the toughness. Right about the passion. Right about the fact that this kid, the one everyone mocked and doubted and reduced to a shadow, was something rare and real and worthy of standing beside him. Jordan had said it in 100 different ways over 20 years, and it took losing Kobe forever for the world to stop arguing long enough to hear him. There is a lesson buried in all of this, and it is not really about basketball. It is about the difference between what people are loud enough to argue about and what is actually true. For 20 years, the loudest voices treated Kobe Bryant as a debate to be won. Was he as good as Jordan, or was he a fraud? Was he a winner or a selfish gunner? Was he the real thing or a clever copy? And the whole time, the person who knew better than anyone had already settled the matter in his own heart, and kept trying to tell us. We just did not listen. We were too invested in the argument to hear the answer. It makes you wonder how many times that happens in life. How often the person closest to the truth is standing right there, telling us plainly what is real while we drown them out with our need to be right. How often we only understand what someone meant to us after it is too late to tell them. Jordan spent 2 decades quietly affirming who Kobe was. Kobe spent 2 decades chasing a hero who had already privately embraced him as an equal and a brother. And the fullness of it only landed on the world in the one moment when neither of them could enjoy it anymore. Michael Jordan was right about Kobe Bryant. He was right about the fire, the toughness, the passion, and the greatness. And he was right about it long before the rings and the records forced everyone else to agree.
To inspire the people next to you. Yeah, I think that's what greatness is or should be. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever.
There was something about Kobe that I think reassured us that it's possible, to give every ounce of yourself and literally exhaust yourself to be great at what you want to do, to be great at what you love to do.
The tragedy is not that he was wrong. The tragedy is that he was right all along, saying it out loud, year after year, to a world that was too busy debating to believe him. So maybe the way to honor both of them is to actually learn the lesson this time. To listen to the people who see clearly. To tell the people we admire what they mean to us while they can still hear it. And to remember that the loudest argument in the room is almost never the same thing as the truth. Rest in peace, Kobe and Gianna Bryant. And to the man who saw him clearly when the rest of us would not, thank you for trying to tell us, even when nobody listened. If this story meant something to you, take a moment today to say the thing you have been meaning to say to someone you admire. And subscribe for more stories about the truths we only understand when it is almost too late.